Good morning and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation on what is a very sunny match day, guys. Sunny Sunday match day, obviously 12 o'clock kickoff today between Rangers and Hibernian at Easter Road in Edinburgh as Rangers play their third final game of the season, looking to continue their good run they're on. Obviously victories over Aberdeen and Celtic. I obviously wanted to back that up, especially given the fact that lot from across the city dropped points yesterday, drawing 2-2 with St Mirren. Victory today would take the gap between the two. I know the league is over, but it would take it down to single figures, which looks a lot better than double figures. Well, we'll talk a little bit about the game in a short while, so please hang on for that. We will talk a little bit about the Hibs game today, but we're going to talk about the news that has been coming out of the club over the last 24 hours. Obviously, as the aim is always on this channel to bring you your team every single day. Those of you who as well, if you haven't yet caught it, go back after this video and check out our Q&A podcast from last night. A fantastic podcast where it was driven by you, the fan, which is always my aim with this channel, very much fan driven, where you ask the questions and Victoria and I did our best to answer them, with Victoria in her car on the way to get her head, and fantastic commitment from Victoria. Anyway, let's talk about this man first. Let's talk about Antonio Cholak. Now, obviously, Antonio Cholak got himself a new agent, and there's been a lot of speculation surrounding Antonio and his future at the club. Rumours abound that Antonio is on his way out, that he's looking for a move to the Bundesliga, that he hasn't been happy with his opportunities at the club. Given the fact that Alfie has been picked ahead of him when fit, even when Antonio Cholak was fit. Obviously, Cholak is currently out injured. Now, Michael Beale has been having his say about Antonio Cholak. The manager was asked whether or not Antonio Cholak had a future at Rangers, which Michael Beale said he did. He does have a future, and he's been impressed with Antonio's goal return. Michael Beale, in fact, used the word fantastic when it came to Antonio's goal return. He pretty much said that when Antonio's been fit, when he's been playing, his goal return has been fantastic for the club. Now, obviously, there has been a great deal of speculation saying that he's not a Beale player, which Michael Beale dismissed. Michael Beale also talked about the fact that, yes, they would be bringing in more strikers over the summer and it would be increased competition. But, as Michael Beale said in an interview very recently, if you're not up for competition, this is the wrong club for you, which is a fantastic attitude to have and the right attitude to have. Glasgow Rangers is one of the biggest clubs in the world. And if you're going to come to one of the biggest clubs in the world, you need to expect competition for your position. And let's face it, the one good thing about competition drives up standards. If you've got someone behind you, pushing you, trying to get your place, trying to get your job, you are going to work that bit harder, that bit faster, that bit quicker, and that bit stronger to try and prove that you are the person that should be in that team or in that role. And I think that's what the situation is. So it does appear that there is a lifeline if Cholak does want to remain in Glasgow past the end of this season. Now, I think for depth purposes, it would be great to have Cholak in the team. I think he does provide good depth. I think obviously you do need to have at least 3, maybe even 4 strikers on your books, because you lose if you only have 2, you lose one of them, you're down to 1 striker. If you lose both of them, like we're seeing at the moment, I know that Morelos is not out injured, but is currently obviously out of favour. You have no strikers, and that is not a situation to play in. Now, given the fact that Rangers, obviously one of the weaknesses we've had this season is being clinical enough in front of goal, the more striking options we have, the better for the club. But it does appear that Antonio Cholak does have a lifeline if he wishes to remain in Glasgow. Michael Beale is happy to have him in the squad and happy to have him as one of his match day options. Michael Beale did talk about the fact that obviously a lot of what Antonio Cholak had done in terms of missing out on opportunities to play had been down to his injuries, and that he hoped that given a strong pre-season at the club, we could get over those injury concerns and have Cholak back ready, fighting to go for next season. Okay, so guys, let me know what you think. Is Cholak the man to keep, or do you think we should try and move him on and use that to raise money to buy some other strikers? There have been links to other strikers, Josh Madger and Joel Pirot, but at this moment in time, obviously, there's no movement on that at this moment in time in terms of those strikers coming into the club. But we will keep you updated. Anything we hear, anything, find out anything, I will be on the channel bringing you those updates as soon as is possible. Okay, so what else in terms of the news? Well, apparently, Michael Beale is set to have talks with 2 stars who are out of contract next summer. Now, one of the big criticisms for Rangers former director of football Ross Wilson was the fact that he allowed 8 players to run their contracts right down, including 2 saleable assets in Alfredo Morelos and Ryan Kent. these players now can obviously walk for nothing this summer, whereas obviously the desire is to bring a player in, have them under contract, and using the player trading model, which we are currently using, then sell that player on for a profit. But obviously that has not happened with those players like Alfie, like Ryan Kent, like Philip Helander, like Scott Arfield, etc., etc. So John Lundstram and Borna Barisic and Kamar Roof are all out of contract next summer in 2024. So apparently, Michael Beale will be holding talks with Borna Barisic and John Lundstram over probably new deals. Now, I know this is going to cause a bit of a meltdown when it comes to certain groups of Rangers fans. You know, John Lundstram, who's not had the best of seasons, and obviously Borna Barisic, who is certainly someone who seems to divide the fan base. There are the fans of Borna, and there are those that think he is awful and, you know, goes to sleep at the back post and lets us down against Celtic. That has been obviously an argument that is had by a number of Rangers fans. Now, John Lundstram seems to have really improved in his last few performances in terms of the way he's performed on the field. Now, this is felt because when he came back into the team around about the Viaplay League Cup final time, he was not fully fit. Many people joked it looked like he was towing a caravan. And I've been one who's criticised John Lundstram. Don't get me wrong, I have criticised John. I've criticised his performances. I've said that he needs to be nowhere near the team, etc., etc. But in recent weeks, his performances have been better. Particularly, obviously, last week against Celtic, where he put in a very, very good performance indeed. That, I think, was a lot of that, though, was down to the fact that Ryan Jack was back in the team. When Jack is there, Lundstram doesn't have to drop back, doesn't have to become that holding midfield player, doesn't have to become that more negative player that gets him all the criticism. Now, John Lundstram is someone who appears to be very much committed to Rangers as well. You know, in terms of the interviews that John has given, he's talked very much about wanting to be a Ranger for life, wanting to finish his career with the club, and certainly loves being in Glasgow and loves playing for Rangers. And to me, you know what, half the commitment for half the thing you need is that desire to play for the club, that ability to play, that just straight want to fight for the jersey. Yes, the other half is talent and ability. I get that, but look, at the end of the day, when it comes to the likes of John Lundstram and Borna Barisic, we need to have a depth to this squad. And I think the thing you've got to look at is, yes, Ridvan has been very impressive, but the guy has an injury history. I know Dujon Sterling can play left back, he can play right back, he can play centre half, right wing back, left wing back, he can play a number of different positions, but you need to have a quality of strength in depth in the squad. Now, whilst perhaps in the long term, getting a fee for these two may be desirable for the club, but that I don't think will be this summer. Rangers are in a position where we need a massive, huge overhaul this summer, a big rebuild. But the situation is that you cannot realistically, with the budget we're likely to have and in the environment that we play, throw out 20, 15, 20 players and try and bring in 15 and 20 new players and try and bed them in. Number one, they're not going to be bedded in time. Number two, we've got the Champions League qualifiers coming up very early in the season. Number three, we don't have the funds to do that. You do need to retain some of those players. Now, you may disagree with that. You may not like that. And look, in an ideal world, yes, I would love to clear out the whole squad that have let us down repeatedly since 55 and just keep the likes of Tav and Goldson and Raskin and Cantwell and Jack and McCrory. But realistically, that's not going to happen. Not at this stage anyway. Yes, there is going to be an overhaul. Yes, there are new players like Dujon Sterling, like Kieran Dowell, like possibly Jack Butland, like possibly Josh Madger to come into the squad and vastly improve the squad. But at this stage, we are going to have to keep hold of some of those players and keep a core of this squad to build on and put those players around them. Plus, also, you sometimes find as well with some players, if you surround them with better players, they play better as well. So, look, I get the argument 100% about moving on the serial losers, moving on the likes of Lundstram, moving on the likes of Barisic, of Kamar Roof, of Glenn Kamara, etc. Now, I think Kamara should be sold and will be sold. I think he's firmly out of favour. But when it comes to the likes of John Lundstram and Borna Barisic, the other thing, I suppose, is if we get them under contract beyond 2024, you can then perhaps charge a fee for them next season if that's the time to then move them on. And it makes financial sense for the club to do that. Realistically, I think we probably do need to keep hold of them for this next season as possible squad players, as backups to Ridvan and backups to whoever else we bring in to play alongside Raskin, Cantwell, Jack in that midfield. You know, it could be the likes of Jose Cifuentes, could be Kieran Dowell, whoever. but we do need to have a strength in depth, players to bring in and rotate through. You can give players like Raskin, like Jack, like Cantwell a rest against some of those lesser teams in the Scottish Premier League, where you don't need to perhaps have all your A-team stars on the field. Well, that's my idea anyway. You might fundamentally disagree with that, and feel free, guys. It is a fan channel. Like I said, I'm happy to have that constructive discussion with you, as long as it is a constructive discussion. Okay, so we are just coming up for what, 2 hours away from 2.25 hours away from kickoff today, where Rangers travel to Easter Road to take on Hibernian. Obviously, last time out against Hibernian, we won 4-1 at Easter Road with a phenomenal performance. In fact, that day by Ryan Kent, of all players. Rangers are without a number of players for today's game. Borna Barisic, Ben Davis, probably Connor Goldson, Ryan Kent, Antonio Cholak, Kamar Roof, Tom Lawrence, Stephen Davis, Philip Hallander, and obviously Malik Tillman, all out, all unable to feature today for Rangers. So Michael Beale has already said that some new players will get that opportunity. Some new players will get the chance to play in today's game. There's the likelihood, obviously, we could see the like of Leon King, maybe even Alex Lowry play a part. Obviously, Zach Lovelace is away and Bailey Rice are away with their national teams at the under-17 Euros, so will not feature at all. Hibernian are currently unbeaten in their last couple of games and obviously are on a bit of a run and want to get that European place. There is a battle, obviously, between themselves, St Mirren, Aberdeen and Hearts for those European places. So they will obviously be still going for it. Rangers have a duty, obviously, to go out there and I think finish the season as strongly as possible. That's what Michael Beale has said he wants. So I think what we need to do today, realistically, is we need to go out there. We need to play with the same intensity, the same fight, the same desire that we played with against Celtic. If we go out and match that, if Cantwell plays that same level, then I don't think Hibernian can realistically live with us. At the end of the day, there's not many teams that can actually live with Rangers when they are playing to the top of their form. And Michael Beale has that strong desire to keep this team playing in that very forward motion. And that's what we need today. I'm predicting a 3-0 victory for Rangers today. Hopefully that will obviously come off, which will then leave us with 2 games. Really looking forward to the Hearts game on Wednesday night underneath the lights. And then obviously the last game of the season next Saturday against St Mirren, which will be a tough one away at St Mirren, given obviously the fact that St Mirren did go to that lot across the city and get a draw yesterday. So guys, please come and join me for the watch along, which will be starting just before 12 today. I'll be watching the game and commenting on the game. It would be great to have you in the live chat and contributing your ideas, your thoughts, your comments, your questions about the game. Thank you so much again for choosing to watch another video from Glasgow Rangers Nation, your daily Rangers channel. And what I say, your team every single day. And if you want your team every single day, hit that sub, ring that notification bell. And if you can give this video a like, guys, it would help. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, always, we are the people.